So I'll put the first one in the answered so that you can see it. Okay.
Sure.
Essay here, 5 months working on my individual recovery, 12-step CSAT, doing good. But the bottom line is I've discovered that when my partner has episodes of pain or sadness or anger, the betrayal and expresses herself, my fear paralyzes me and I don't know what to do in the moment to support her. I want to validate her feelings and help her, and I'm desperate to learn how. So what are your advices?
And just tell me, did you give some feedback to this question, or have you not?
I did. So
Okay.
I briefly said, I've got it
No,
here. I briefly said, I briefly said that, planning ahead, like, this is going to happen. And then I shared, like, Eddie Caparucci does a great job of talking about this specifically on the webinars, which are posted on the sexandrelationshiphealing.com. But it's, not letting his fear, I'm saying his, overtake her emotional. I mean, she's entitled to that, and his fear can take more presence than her emotional. But having a plan, it's like, what do I need to do to stay grounded in this moment? Be curious, know it's going to happen. So what can I do in that moment? Ask her in advance, like, what in those moments, what can I do? So that I have a plan, and then I can follow that plan. So that's.
However, Helst, you do not need me at all. You do not need me at all. So let me drop a couple of quick things in there. I agree with Tammy. I'm not sure if exactly what she was saying, but I would let her know in advance. Like, when you're not in an argument, when you're just sitting and chatting, say, I really need to tell you something. I don't want you to think this is because I don't want to hear what you hear. Let me say positive. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to listen to you. I really do want to understand my part. And I want you to know that sometimes when you turn to me, you get angry, I just shut down. That's what I do. I'm so sorry. It's not about you. It's my stuff. So, there are a couple of things you can do with that. Number one, I wrote a book called Out of the Doghouse, a relationship saving guide for men caught cheating. And while I make 10 cents when I sell a book, I deliberately went in there and I said, this is how you say things to a hurt person. This is what you don't say. This is what you do say. It's about men who've cheated on women, because we don't always know how to make that better. So honestly, I think it's worth a reading, because it may also be you don't know exactly what to do. Am I supposed to say I'm sorry? Am I supposed to answer the question? What am I supposed to do? And that's the reason I wrote the book, is because I want you to understand what you can and cannot say. And also there is a course that we created on Out of the Doghouse for people struggling with this.
It starts Wednesday.
And it starts Wednesday. And honestly, we're not here to sell anything. I mean, if we do, we're doing okay. But I really think the opportunity to learn from the kinds of things that I've worked on, that we've been able to pass through the organization, it's worth it. You will learn so much about how to more kindly and reflectively help your spouse believe that you do understand. There is one more thing, which is, as a sex addict and working with as many people as I do have this issue, universally, we have trouble being assertive. Those of us who sexually act out in the way we do, and I don't know why. I do know why. It's because of what we grew up with. But what I can tell you is that if assertive people, if you get me angry, I don't go have sex with a stranger. I direct my upset to you. So by nature, the fact that we act out our feelings rather than being direct about them says that we have a problem with this. This is also a couples therapy issue, and I don't know if Tammy mentioned that, but this is a great thing to sit. This is what couples therapy is for, which is I say this and then you say that, and then they work on it right in the moment. So they're sitting there objectively able to give you feedback. So I would read Doghouse. I would take the course. If you need a couples therapist, Tammy makes great recommendations, and tell your spouse that you have this problem so they don't just think you're ignoring them. Let them in before it happens. Okay, that's all my answers.
Great. Okay, next one. As part of our recovery plan, addicts draw up actions that they can take to mitigate triggers and not allow behaviors to escalate to acting out. Would it be advantageous for betrayed partners to do something similar to assist them in managing their triggers?
No, I do not think so. Can you imagine saying, okay, Tam, I'm going to ask you to be a betrayed spouse for a moment. So if you don't mind. So here is my sex plan, and here are the things that I can do and can't do. And I'd like your feedback, and I'm going to take that back to my sponsor, my therapist. And there you go. Now, I want to talk to you about the boundaries that you need to have, because it's very overwhelming to me when you get really upset and angry. And so I want us to figure out what triggers you so that I can calm you down, or have you calm down, or have you be more aware of what triggers you so you can calm yourself down. How about that?
A litany of foul language, but you trigger me. Your behavior triggered me. All of your past. I was not like this before you did. Right. I mean, I could go on. So you get the picture. Yes.
Seeing your face triggers me. Listening to you. In other words, it doesn't matter what you say or do. What Tammy said is true. The very fact that you exist and you have done what you've done to them is what triggers them. It isn't any particular thing. It could be this on Monday and this on Thursday. It's you. It's your having caused the pain. And until trust begins to really be restored, they're going to turn around and say, what do you mean I have the problem? You're the one who has the problem. I'm upset. Look what you did to me. Although Tammy did a better job at that than I did.
Oh, and like I could tap into that. Yeah. But we won't. No. Trust me. And, you know, and I did share before you got, I do know a couple of therapists, and it's actually been, I thought it was interesting and helpful work where they talk to partners to explain what a 3-circle was. Is there anything that you want to avoid? Like, you know, completely focused, like then you get a perspective on that. But like an addict going to a partner and saying, you ought to do this because this will help you, you know, that would not be helpful for a relationship.
I want to say about both of the last 2 questions, something that Tammy and I have talked about before, which is, you know, set a time. You know, we're going to talk about this at 8 o'clock each night for 30 minutes, and I'm going to have 15 and you're going to have 15. And then we'll have a little, you know, if you can structure it and put it in a place, you know, I'm not going to turn to you every 5 minutes and say, did you do this? Did you do that? I mean, I will, but if I know that I just need to write that down and sit with you in the evening and go through that, or tell you I freaking hate you, but the kids are sitting there. So maybe I better not say that right now. I'll tell you at 8 o'clock. So I think just putting it at a time where it isn't coming at either one of you will make it easier for both of you.
So there's a really long one. I'm going to condense it. They've been married 24 years, 2 children in their 60s. Started discovering things in 2015. So things have progressed. Doing middle circle behaviors. Yeah, I think I said that, no children. So this is middle circle behaviors. He did Doghouse 1 and 2 this past spring. I hear the same lament. It's not as bad as you think. I thought I could control it. It doesn't feel like out of control like it has been in the past. So it sounds like minimizing to me. It's hard to stop thinking about. I have such a long way, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't see the deliberate deception and then has an aha moment, yet it takes days to get there. Tell the truth and tell it faster is not happening. I know we are not who we masturbate to, yet the lying is the issue. He states he is attracted to men in a sexual way, yet not in an emotional way, and does not know how to deal with the sexual compulsive erotic template. I'll do anything to save this marriage. And and we have yet to have a disclosure. And he stated in his, let's see. So
it's okay. It's okay. I saw it.
You got it. Yeah. So I know that relapse is part of healing, you know. Whatever.
So here's what I'd like to say. We are saving a bed for your spouse. Yes. I don't know who this person saw or where they went to treatment. I don't know what acknowledge means. I know what acknowledge means because I have 30 years of experience and have written a whole bunch of books and run treatment centers. You have to understand about treatment centers. I'm going to go on a little rant now. It doesn't matter what their name is. It doesn't matter how great they are. What matters is who is doing the treatment in that moment. So if you have someone who's been with the organization 2 years and they're an intern, although you may be going to, you know, the greatest institution in the world, you're being seen by someone who doesn't have a lot of experience and is just really starting out in the field, because guess who wants and gets the jobs in the hospitals and the treatment centers. So having somebody who's done a lot of work for the long term, in other words, I don't know what this person has done or not done, but
he came to SI in 2020, so he's been
okay. So he needs to come back.
Years. He needs to come back.
I'm sorry about that. Well, we do the best we can, but right. But people have lifelong problems. Let me try to say it this way. I used to work with a man. I used to work for a very expensive treatment center, and people would go there and they'd spend lots of money and they would relapse. And I used to say to this gentleman, how is it that people can spend so much money and time here and they relapse? And he said, well, here's the good news. People relapse, but after they've done treatment, they tend to relapse less often, and in less severe ways. So it doesn't we are not going to make it perfect, but we are going to hopefully lead people down the road of some kind of change. Let's go back. Lied to me, lied to counselors. if someone comes in and lies to counselors, it's very difficult to try to guide them in the right direction. What I'm concerned about here is you. I'm concerned about your mental health. I'm concerned about your emotional health. Um, I think actually what you said, given very specific tools to do with what if this happens again, is he doing them? Has he ever done them? I mean, if this is someone who came to treatment with us and they lied to us, right, and lied to you, and it's been what, a year or two, and they're still lying, and they're still lying, right, and you can catch them lying, then I'm not sure what any of this means for you. In other words, how can you as a spouse lean into something when it just keeps falling over every time you lean into it? And so, first of all, they're welcome to come back for a few weeks and we will try to work with them since we know them already. But number two, I wonder if there's more, if someone were to come back or work with someone else, I would really want to get much more evaluation of them. Do they have the capacity to be honest? Do they have the capacity? Some people are just broken and no matter what, they're not able to proceed. And so I feel like for me, if I worked with them, I got to know someone who didn't really reveal who they were to me. So how do I help them? How do you help them? How do you love them into healing with you when they're lying? So June 13th, what was that, 4 or 5 days ago, whatever it was, you found a bottle of lube and he's lying to you and he's lying to his therapist and he's lying to his support group. Honestly, this is time to get a locksmith. This is time to say, look, I wish you well. I hope you get better. Give me a certificate when you complete some other program. This is someone who might need a polygraph. I mean, there's a lot of things, but there's compulsive lying here. There isn't just I did something I didn't want to tell you, or I told you the next day. I mean, this is years and years. So I guess what I'm kind of saying is I'm less hopeful about someone with a history like this and I'm talking what they did since therapy, since treatment. So I just wonder what you can do to take care of yourself, because trying to support this person, look, I tried to support them, whoever they are, you tried to support them, their therapist tried to support them, their group tried to support them, and they're lying to everybody. So to me, that is a very troubled person. It's more than just addiction. They have issues. And I would really be protecting myself. Certainly I wouldn't be sleeping with them in the same bed. And I'd rather they weren't in my house. This is only going to cause pain to you. And Tammy would say this, I think, but take a breath. You're looking for answers about him. And I think you've already gone to the wall for him. I want to know what answers you have for yourself. I am living in this very painful situation where I continue to be harmed. And no matter what I do, it doesn't get better. What can I do for me? I'm not trying to take the energy off of all the stuff that he's doing, but you can't help him. I can't help him. Nobody seems able to help him. But you've got to help yourself. And, found lube. Anyway, I just think this is a very sad situation with a spouse who's clearly put an investment and time into trying to get this better. But at a certain point, maybe you can't make it better. And then you really have to look at you. So, hey, Tammy, what you got?
I only want to add, in the 12-step books, it talks about there are some that are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. And at the end of this, that's what I hear. He is not able to be honest with himself, let alone anyone else. He's, so I think he's lying to himself. Well, it's not as bad as it used to be, so therefore I'm okay. So I agree 100% with Dr. Rob. What do you need to do to take care of you, in all of this? Like, can you see, because you've got a long pattern, can you see the next 20 years, on the same hamster wheel of, so what do you need to do, regardless of what he does or doesn't do, to take care of you?
And what would you do if someone you dearly love, like a sister or a best friend or somebody's daughter came to you and said, this is what's happening to me? What advice would you give them? If you really cared about them, if you really cared about their welfare, what would you say to them? I think it would be different than some of the questions you're asking. So anyway, sad story.
Okay, so now pop up to the 501 and the answered. I do not think my husband is a sociopath. He's SA and has multiple physical affairs, emotional affairs, porn, cyber sex abuse, keying, Darvo, blaming me, shaming me, lacked empathy, insulted me, etc., would it be correct to say that he demonstrated a sociopathic behavior toward me?
Is this the same person, do you think? Or
No,
somebody else?
this is a different, I put the three
Okay.
together of the continued. So yeah.
Okay, so the first sentence, for whatever it's worth, says, I do not think I'm guessing husband or partner or whatever
Husband,
is a sociopath.
right, husband.
And what I would say to you is, unless you have a PhD in psychology and you do psychological testing, you just don't know. What you're saying is, I hope my husband's not a sociopath. I feel like he's not a sociopath, but there are tests and examinations and ways to actually figure that out. What's more concerning to me is all of it, the way, especially the part of it, I get the addiction part. Okay, I'm an addict. I get it. But blaming you, shaming you, lacking empathy, insulting you, what if he was hitting you physically? Would that be it? So let's try this. I don't think my husband's a sociopath. He's a sex addict. He's had multiple affairs, emotional abuse, and once a week he smacks me across the face. How would you look at that? Because the way you're talking, and I know I'm being a little maybe over the top, although I think Tammy would say no, because when you look at all of this, blaming me, shaming me, lacking empathy, insulting me, after you're the one who's been harmed, to me, that is, forget sociopath, abusive. He's very abusive, not unlike domestic violence, only it's verbal and emotional abuse. And I don't think it's all that different. I've had women say to me, I wish he hit me, because at least then I could say that's what happened. But this constant blaming and shaming and insulting, and that's driving me insane. So I don't know sociopath or not. I've never met him or evaluated him. But what I will say is this is an abusive person who has a problem with their anger. Yeah, and without question, there's no humility. That's clear. Tammy, I feel bad. We have all these really hurting spouses who are not just getting a little hurt; they're getting a lot hurt, and that makes me sad watching this.
Me too, and I don't hear, I hear he's an SA, right, but I don't hear he's doing, and he's at least starting on the path. So like we said with the last one, what do you need to do to take care of you? And, healthy boundaries. And I hear all the time from partners that go, oh, I can't hold a boundary. And I'm like, boundaries are for your safety, your physical safety, emotional safety, financial safety. What do you need to do? And they're not about, they're not punitive. It's not about you did this. And so therefore it's like, I need this. I value me enough that I'm setting this boundary for my safety. And I think if you can think of it that way, is I need this for me. I need this for me, because addicts are notoriously good at, poking through it, boundaries. So if this, then I need to withdraw myself. You need to, you need to move out. You need to go to the other bedroom, whatever it is that you need for your safety. And they absolutely will test the boundary. So what do you need to do to prepare to hold that boundary? Okay, ready for the next one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it's 504. So new to this, betrayed partner with recent discovery. What happens if your non-negotiable boundary is no sexual contact with other women and your SA partner simply lies and hides it because they know if they admit it to a relapse, the marriage is likely over? How should one manage this and expect honesty?
Well, let me say something that a lot of the spouses may not like, but here's the reality. If I tell you, if you tell me, if you do this again, I'm leaving and I'm not coming back. And I did it because I had a slip and I'm an addict and I wish I hadn't, but those happen. It just happens. Why would I ever tell you? Because what you're telling me is if I screw this up and I have to start again or have to start working again, I'm going to caught in a situation where I either have to lie to you or I'm going to lose you because you've told me that. So what I say to partners, and I think this is the most important thing I could say, is if you say something, mean it. So if you have said to this person, if you do this again, I'm going to leave, then leave. And I mean, pack your bag, because what this person is learning from you is, oh, they say they're going to leave, but they really don't. And so I can do what I want, and they're not going to follow through on what they said they were going to do. So I strongly advise all of you spouses to not say, if you do this again, I'm leaving you, unless that is what you're going to do. If you do this again, I'm going to feel like leaving you. That's a whole different thing. Or I will think about leaving you, or I might go see a divorce lawyer. Great. But when you tell me, that you're going to take this kind of action, I will lie to you because I don't want to be in that situation. So what I would, and let me explain this in a different way. When I've had spouses coming from a different place and saying, I'm going to be really angry and really hurt, and it's going to be a long time before trust is restored if you have a slip. And then Tammy's my spouse, and I say to her, well, I got to tell you, I had a slip last week. She's going to be furious. She's going to be hurt. She might walk out. She might do all kinds of things, but there will be a little part in Tammy's brain that says, he wasn't telling me about this before. And now he's coming and telling me. He's telling me things I wouldn't like to hear, but at least he is being honest. And isn't that, I read your letters, ladies and gentlemen, when you write, when we're in treatment and you write a letter about what your life has been like with this person, I read your letters. We call them impact letters, and we bring you into the room in treatment. I have read hundreds and hundreds of impact letters, and I can tell you that 5 to 8% of most of them are about sex. And everything else in those letters is, I just want you to be honest with me. I just want you to be open with me. I just want to build a meaningful relationship. I just want to hear what's actually happening. So in this case, I would say, I hate it, but thank goodness he's being honest. And if he keeps being honest, maybe we'll get to a place where I can make different decisions for myself, or we can work forward and make this better. So that's my best response. Tammy, do you have a thought?
Well, yeah, I do. And I'm so glad you're here. You said new to this. So, and it's a recent discovery. So this is all new, and there are lots and lots of support options for you. So on sexandrelationshiphealing.com, there are multiple betrayed partner drop-in groups. Going on those groups and hearing from other betrayed partners and getting support, for that. But yeah, early in the process, he doesn't have the tools to not lie, and setting up what are his boundaries. He's accountable to his sponsor, his therapist, whatever. You getting support from other betrayed partners will really help. I promise. I don't know what he's doing. Just stopping the behavior, which clearly he's not there yet, but just stopping the behavior, that's addressing the symptom. What is he doing? We've got drop-in groups for male addicts. We've got the Sex Addiction 101. We've got the Out of the Doghouse work groups. We have a treatment program. I mean, who is he working with? What is he doing on a daily basis to change things? Does he have a 3-circle plan that we mentioned earlier? So if he's not doing any of that and he just says, oh, I won't do it again, he will. He can't help himself. So what do you need to do to have healthy boundaries? There's podcasts and books also on the sexandrelationshiphealing.com that you will find helpful on how to set healthy boundaries, what you need. But again, please, lean into the support with other betrayed partners. There's nothing normal about this, but it helps to normalize. You're not alone, and others are on the path and can help support and guide you.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault. There's nothing you did or didn't do, and you can't. You set healthy boundaries for you. It's not to make him not do it, because you can't control that. So, okay, next question. I'm living with my spouse who has a poor emotional sobriety. He has not created safety in our relationship either, as he continues to be friends. He went to prostitutes and massage parlors with. I'm choosing to stay because I have a disabled son and need financial support. What should this relationship look like? How friendly should I be? What boundaries do you recommend to protect myself? That's a challenging question.
Well, first of all, I'm really sorry about your challenges with your son. And I hope, and I'm sure with a lot of the parents who I work with who have these issues, that he's a joy in your life, regardless of his challenges. And I think you're a really good mom. That's what I think. So, this is a tough one, Tammy, because, I don't know this person's circumstances. I mean, is there family you could live with? Are there other people who love you, the two of you, that you could live with? This is one, like, do you stay in an abusive situation? And maybe I'll back up and say something about how I think about the world. There are people who don't make a lot of money, and when they're married and have kids and one of them cheats, they can't do anything about it. because he or she needs that income. They need that person working. They need somebody to watch over the kids. And they just have to figure out a way to survive and work through it. It's only people who have the resources that end up in therapy or treatment centers. I mean, we do our best to support as many as we can who are unable to come to therapy or treatment. But the bottom line is how friendly you should be. It depends on what kind of relationship you have. If you can move to we are co-parenting and we're taking care of this child, and whatever you do, I don't really care. If you can move to a complete place of neutrality where, and I say this all the time, but the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And I think if you can get to a point where you can be indifferent about his emotional sobriety, his prostitute, if you're just like, that's over there, and my job with him is to make sure our kid get taken care of, that's the best thing you can do short of leaving, is finding a way to emotionally distance yourself and co-parent without any expectations. Yeah, I mean, Tammy, this is a tough, sad, difficult situation.
Oh, to add information, I didn't see it. He goes to 6 Zoom SA meetings a week, has a CSAT, but continues to golf with these men and has lied many times. I'm in Escalating and Tonglen and CSAT. I'm choosing to stay. And, we honor that, you choosing to stay, but what you need to do for your emotional safety, physical safety, financial safety, but yeah.
And Tammy, I remember this question has come up before. I think this person's been here before. I guess it's because I recognize some of the story. And, you can't make people do what they're not willing to do. At a certain point, you have to focus on you. And this person has not changed their behavior in a long time from what I'm seeing. So anyway,
Yeah.
I'm very sorry about that. And how much does he care for your child if he's willing to put the two of you in this situation? Sorry, Tammy.
No, that's okay. But I was talking to a therapist a few weeks ago, and the comment was made by this therapist that, there's no leverage, and so the addict was kind of going like, yeah, it was a he and she, well, she'll nag me a little bit, she'll be angry or whatever, but ultimately he still got to do what he wanted to do. So that's what I read with this. I'm still going to go, golfing with my buddies. I'm going to still do all of these things, and kind of, so what, but you're right, emotionally immature and disconnected from, from family, so, and I'm sorry for you on that. So, okay, next question. Please touch on pros and cons between coaches trained in betrayal trauma versus therapists.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just looking for this one. Oh, I see you put it there. My bad.
It's all good.
Well, okay. Coaches can be very wonderful, insightful people who are well trained, or they can be complete goofballs who don't know anything and they've decided to call themselves a coach. There really is no national standard to be a coach. You can go to coaching school, you can go to, Joe's coaching school and call yourself a coach. So what I worry about is something we talk about a lot, Tammy and I, which is expertise. You heard me talking about it earlier. If I were dealing with this problem, I would want to see the most trained person possible. And I think coaches are wonderful. So how do I say this? I think different parts of our mental health and addiction world are best worked with different kinds of people. So if I was working with an addict who was trying to really work on their sobriety and get the steps and do the things they need to do, if I was working with a friend who was struggling to get the right job and just didn't know how to put themselves out there, and things that people are working on and need to move forward with, yeah, a coach can be really helpful because they know their role, and their role is simply to work with that issue and help the person move forward. It is not the role of any coach to do psychotherapy or to do trauma work or to do any of the underlying issues. They are simply there to help you achieve. And I think it's great. If I want to finally get myself out there to meet people and start dating, coaches are wonderful. If I really want to go back to school and I just can't get myself to get the steps together to go back to school, coaches are amazing. But if I'm having a deep and enduring psychological addiction problem, I think a coach is other than just going to a friend, I don't think it's really, I think you're going to regret it. So we're trained, and in fact, I wouldn't say just therapists. I think, so someone put up there the name of the coaching agency, I think, or something like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they have all kinds of names and they've been through different kinds of trainings. I know the training that you're mentioning. I think it's great they went there, but if they're not a master's level licensed mental health professional with addiction experience, I don't refer to anybody. That's just how it goes. Tammy and I both, we have a bottom line, which is, in fact, Tammy used to work with the educational program around where the CSAC comes from. And they would not take anyone for that training unless they had a master's and a license, other than a pastoral counseling course. So I think Tammy would agree with me. In situations like these, you want to work with someone who's at the highest level and most experience possible. Doesn't mean there aren't crappy and terrible therapists out there, that's for sure. But give Tammy, drop Tammy a note. We make referrals. We don't get any kickbacks, but we sure know who the people are around the country who do good work. And I think that's TAMI at seekingintegrity.com, right? Okay.
You do, you got it right. So yeah, and I want to tag on to that a little bit. So I make hundreds of referrals a week. I'm not exaggerating. And I don't refer to coaches. I don't find that their qualifications are such. The only exception, if somebody was working and they really needed some practical things, like Dr. Rob was talking about, yeah, possibly for a betrayed partner, if you need help setting healthy boundaries, maybe, but still, I find that most of the betrayed partners, are struggling with deeper trauma work, and that is not a coach's responsibility. They can handle what do you need to do today and moving forward, like having a plan, that's all fine. Anything, this is simplistic, but anything that's, in the past is not part of their legal work. And you can go to many little courses or do online. And I'm like, this is mental health, stuff. This is complicated. I say all the time to people, you got cancer. You want the cancer specialist. You do not want your GP, even though you love your GP, this is the stuff that you need really good help with. Most therapists are not trained to work with addiction. Even fewer are trained to work with these issues. Having the right help, makes a difference. So, Dr. Rob does expert consultations. One couple shared, and I hear lots of positive about this. One couple shared that they'd been to 4 different therapists over a 2-year period of time, and they were still floundering. They talked to Dr. Rob on an expert consultation. He knows his stuff. This is the work that he's done. He was able to identify the issues that had never been identified and guide their path forward. And they've stayed in contact. That helps set them on a path. So why would you want to flounder for years getting the right help? And it doesn't magically, as we've learned earlier tonight, doesn't magically change things, but man, having the best chance at moving forward in a different way, I hear life-changing from our alumni. I hear it from partners. So healing can take place, if he comes and does the work and, has the ability, to be honest. So.
And I'll say again, coaches have a place and they do really good work when they stay in their lane. But when it comes to mental health issues and addiction, unless they're just helping someone stay sober in a very specific task, this is not master's level licensed with certifications.
Correct. I graduated from SILA 2 weeks ago, yay, and have moved back to with my partner, who is currently in the Betrayed Partners work group. She's having a hard time adjusting to me being back home. We're getting along well, but she's constantly worried that I might be relapsing, and much of her energy is consumed monitoring and worrying about me. She recognizes that I'm showing up completely differently since being at Seeking Integrity Los Angeles, and I suspect it's going to take time to rebuild trust. But is there anything I can do to help her feel safer and feel like she doesn't need to monitor or worry about me as much? Thanks, and thanks for all the amazing staff at Seeking Integrity.
Well, you want to come back and help? Sounds like you're doing really well. Come back and talk.
Yeah.
Come to alumni groups.
Stay on the alumni groups. Yeah, please.
Yeah. But I think that there was one sentence in here that really, she's constantly worrying that I might be relapsing. Of course. Much of her energy is consumed monitoring and worrying about me. Of course. She recognizes I'm doing well, but she said, we both suspect it's going to take time to rebuild trust. Absolutely. Is there anything I can do to help her feel safer? Honestly, I want to say, and this isn't going to be right, but I want to say no. You can keep your side of the street clean. You can be honest. You can go to meetings. You can show up and ask questions. You can go to alumni group. If she sees and feels you demonstrating the work, then over time, and I mean over 6 months, not over 6 weeks, she's going to start to feel better. What I love in here, though, is, and this is the most important piece to me, we're getting along well. How about that? Like, how was it going before? So it's moved into mistrust and fear and anxiety because it's going well. Your spouse is sitting around saying, oh my God, when is the next shoe going to drop? And he or she has had a lot of shoes drop. So I would say they're holding their breath, thinking maybe it worked this time, maybe. And you're just going to, and then if the sky turns blue, they're going to think, oh, he used to go out when the sky turned blue. You just need to let them have their feelings, and understand that it isn't about you in this moment necessarily if you're doing your work, but they have tremendous well of pain, and it's going to be a while. So everything I read in here, and I'd love to hear Tammy's feedback, tells me that this is going well, and I'm glad our program was useful to you. Tammy, do you have thoughts about this one?
Yeah, and I think acknowledge, I'm sorry that my behavior has hurt you and caused you, so much anxiety. I'm doing what I need to today. That's all we've got. I'm doing what I need to today to prevent me from to returning to that. And is there something that I can specifically do? Acknowledge when you're spending time together and things are going well. Acknowledge that and be emotionally present for that. And go. I love that we're able to sit here and have a conversation. I hope you're doing the daily check-ins or whatever, multiple times a week at least, where you're just checking in and giving her a place to say, this, I'm struggling with anxiety. I'm sorry that my past behavior, has you feeling like you need to focus on me. I'm taking care of me. I'm seeing my CSAT. I'm doing the meetings. I'm doing whatever. I will continue to tell you what I'm doing for my recovery, so that that hopefully you can focus on you and good things for you. But yay and thank you for being here. And please go to the alumni groups, Tuesdays and Thursdays, online too. So they'll love to see you.
I had a couple of things more to say. Let me just find this a little bit. First of all, there's just two more things. One is that I would say to her, I watch you struggle with trust and with wondering where I am and worrying all the time. And I'm really sorry that I left you in a situation where you would be worrying about that all the time. Just acknowledge, rather than making it different or trying to not trigger it, just let them know that you see it, and that you're doing your best to do your side of the street, and you understand that they will go through all kinds of things. And if they need your help, you will be glad to help them. I do want to point out something that I think is important, at least for me personally, is that you went to our program. You are doing well. You are trying, you're coming to us saying, how can I be a better spouse? How can I better support the woman, or I think the woman I live with? And how can I help her understand that I'm on the right road? You're, I don't know, 4 or 5 notes above this, we had someone who said, my husband went through your program and he's still lying and cheating, and he lied to you when he was there and he's lying to everybody else. So honestly, it's sort of like saying, the good work happens, and it really, what we can do, and it's not just about our program, but the work, what the programs can do, the 12-step, what the therapists can do, if you really got a good team around you, we can point you in the right direction. We can help you show you what we need to do. In fact, the other person said, you have this, my spouse had a very clear roadmap for what you said he should do, but he's not doing it. So what is sad to me is that we can't change who people are. We can only show them what they can have, the relationship, the love, the family, the foundation that they can have in life if they focus on it and make it their priority. But whether they choose to do that or they just go back to where they were, here's what I want you to understand. It is a decision. I can choose to take what I've learned and run with it, or I can choose to continue to run my own show. And that is my decision, especially if someone's gotten really good care and they lied to the people they were getting treated by. That says something about them. I can't tell you, and I'm just going to rant for 1 second. There are so many people, and I'm just going to say this without arrogance. There are so many people who would love a bed in our program, who would do anything to be there, who would pour themselves and turn themselves inside out to get this level of help. And then they would go home and do everything they were asked, and they would check in with our groups, and they would be involved. I mean, this is a life-changing opportunity, not necessarily a personality changing, that takes a lot longer, but you can shift the course of your life. But you have to, we don't take you there, we just show you where to go. And unfortunately, it is up to that human being, or, you know, you are getting to see, your wife is getting to see, Eric, who you are. And unfortunately, the spouse of this other person is getting to see who they really are, because every chance is given, but are they able or willing to take it? That's not something we can handle or manage. Nice to see you, Eric. I don't know who you are. You could be, because I'm not allowed to say, but Eric Anonymous. So what do we got, Tammy?
How do you know when you've reached your breaking point? My essay husband has been sober from acting outside of our marriage for 1 year. Just after we got back together from a 10-month separation, he disclosed the worst things from when he previously acted out. Our full disclosure was 11 months ago, therapist assisted. These disclosures trickled out over the past 3 weeks. The picture I have of this behavior is entirely different and more egregious than I thought. I can't seem to process how, oops, sorry, I think there's another piece. I'll go get it. Yeah. I don't see it. So I don't, yeah. So I don't.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's okay.
Just let's go with that.
Plenty, yeah. There's plenty of question in there.
Yeah.
So
go for it.
Where should we be? Let me go find it again.
The picture I have this.
I was looking for the
so
end
it's like,
of
how
the
do you
other
know
part
when you've reached your breaking point? Yeah.
Well, I think that someone who's asking that question has reached their breaking point. You know, I mean, it's sort of like saying, how much does my tooth have to hurt before I go to the dentist? If you're even asking me and you're in a lot of pain, you're thinking about that, you probably need to go to the dentist. So maybe that's not a good metaphor, but what you're describing, not only that you're getting more information, not only that there's been disclosure, not only that it's trickling out, but you're also getting information that is not what you heard before, it's different behavior. And, you know, I think any spouse would say in this room, as much as you love somebody, you have to put your own survival first. And if you're telling me you've reached a breaking point, then you're really questioning whether you can handle this or not. And, you know, maybe what I would say back to you is, are you looking for ways that you could separate and take time for yourself? Have you been to an attorney to understand? I'm not saying you have to separate, and I'm not saying you have to get a divorce, but I do think having a solid, you know, it's kind of like moving from the dock to the boat. I would like you to understand that the boat is really solid, so you have to jump off the dock, you have a place to go. Sometimes you don't know where you reach your breaking point because you don't know what your next steps might be. And I would ask you to really think about, because if your breaking point isn't today, it might be tomorrow. And what plans have you made to take care of yourself if this continues? So I would love you to have a solid foundation of your next steps. And then I would let him know, you know, by the way, I have talked to this person, I've gotten this, you know, I have a friend to stay with or my mother, and, you know, and then talk about what would take to put that plan into action. But this is awful stuff. It's just awful stuff, and I don't like it.
Nor do I. And yeah, I often hear partners say, like their head knows something that their heart, you know, can't know yet. And so when their head and their heart align, that's when they knew it was right for them to leave. And I'm not saying you have to leave or whatever you have to do, but I think you're going, I'm at the breaking point. But, you know, again, we have a treatment program, and, you know, if the last thing that you need to try is, you know, I often hear people that, you know, we've had guys get served divorce papers and treatment. So, you know, it's, and reconciles, not that you have to, but I don't know. So this next one, I don't know what the question is.
It shows up below. So
I know, but it says my question did not get posted.
How fast can sex addiction start? So I could become a sex addict one day, and he's talking about having to run to his dad's stash. So let me try this. If you have an abusive dad, and which you clearly did, and he's stashing porn, he probably has a bunch of issues. And I can't help you with the self-hatred around your religious upbringing. I think that's something that you're going to have to find peace with yourself. But here's my experience and belief. I've been doing this a very long time and have these issues myself. And I write about it a lot. And I can tell you that nearly to a one, the gentlemen and ladies that I've worked with in different programs, our wounding was when we were 4. Our wounding was when we were 6. It may have been reinforced as we grew up by finding dad's stuff and getting aroused by it, or dealing with having been abused, but almost to a one. And this is also backed up by research about the early challenges that addicts have that leads us to isolate and try to soothe ourselves without, and lie and all of that. So I would suggest that there were issues in this family long before the ones that you can remember, or the ones that you clearly, besides, you said I was teased relentlessly by a 4-year-old brother beginning at the age of 6. So you already know that at 6, there were things, I bet some of your first memories are about abuse. That didn't start when you were 6. And certainly the environment that was being created for that to happen didn't start at 6. So I do not think that you became an addict because you ran into some porn at 12. I think you ran into the thing that was addictive for you, but you were already headed in that direction. Think of it like drugs and alcohol. You can say, well, my dad gave me a glass of wine at my brother's christening, and therefore that was my first taste of wine, and from then on was an alcoholic. I don't think that people become an alcoholic because they're exposed to a glass of wine when they're 13. I do think, though, if they have the biological and psychological makeup and they're going to end up alcoholic, they take that first drink and they think, this feels really great to me. And then they want to pursue a road going down that way because it is the thing that makes them feel good or better. But the fact that they found something that makes them feel good or better, lots of people do, but the desire to continue down that road has something to do with what's going on inside. So lots of people run into porn at the wrong age. They don't end up being addicts. You did, and I think it has a lot to do with what you grew up with before you can even remember, than running into the porn at 12. Does that make any sense? I hope it does.
Yes, it completely makes sense. Okay, so next question. This is from 524. I find it really difficult to speak to my husband about my boundaries and my pain of his betrayal. My CSAT says it's because of my chronic post-traumatic stress disorder from childhood and PTSD from living with a sex addict for 12 years. Any tips on how to get past this?
Well, why don't you start, Tammy? I think it's a great question for you to start with.
Yeah, so I hope your CSAT is helping. It sounds like it, helping understand the different layers. But I'm wondering if, do you need a couple session with his CSAT and your CSAT to a conjoint session to talk about what the boundaries are and why they're important? There are so many good resources for trauma work. And if your CSAT is working with you and doing some EMDR, brain spotting, somatic experience, something like that to work on the specific trauma from now, eventually later, some of the deeper things, but, addressing the layers now. But I think also like role playing, maybe if it, like Dr. Rob and I did a little bit with, with that, what are you afraid of, will happen, and being able to a role play, with your therapist about like you practicing saying your boundaries and, why it's important to you for your safety, that may be a start too.
Yeah, I really appreciate your starting that question, Tammy, because I knew that you talk to so many people in this situation. So let me go back to that question. I think this is something you can practice when you're not in the conversation. So I would write down these boundaries. I would write down, I'd write a letter. This is the pain that I feel like I'm going through. And then, like Tammy and I talked about an evening exercise. What I really like, one of the ways I really like doing this, we have a half hour or 45 minutes each evening to talk, is that I talk for 15 minutes and you just listen. And then you give me some feedback, like what I heard you say was, or this is what I got out of that. And then you talk for 15 minutes and I just listen. So if you can sit there with your spouse and they're not going to say a word and they're not going to do this, and you're going to just read, these are my boundaries. It's, hard for me to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this. And by the way, I want to let you in a little bit. I want you to hear a few words about what I'm going through. You're not asking for feedback. You're just asking for, did you hear what I said? And here's where I'm coming from. So, and then he or she gets to say how he feels and what he's going through. So I think cutting out the discussion, but putting it in a situation where you can simply say your truth and he says nothing, and that it's set up that way, might make it easier for you. And I was going to agree with Tammy. I think that couples work, this is a really, actually, there's something that's more important. You didn't say anything about where he's at. If your husband is, shaking his head and rolling his eyes and saying, I don't want to hear about, well, of course it's hard for you. Of course it would bring up past trauma. So I would also wonder, what has been the conversation around this? Like, there are things I don't know how to talk about, but if we're going to talk about difficult things, how are we going to do that? And by the way, if he's still cheating, lying, acting out, not doing his work, I hope he is, but then why would you ever feel safe sharing your feelings? Because it's just all going to get thrown back in your face like it doesn't matter anyway. So I do think these are couples issues, and some objectivity would help. But yeah, Tammy, I was late, so let's see if we can get through a couple more.
We've got 2 more questions. Yes, so thank you. My partner's behavior has escalated in the last few months. It seems like every time it escalates, I have to accept something that's unacceptable as dynamic in our relationship. Recently found his second secret cell phone. He didn't have the chance to delete everything this time, and I found he'd been soliciting prostitutes and spent over $1,000 in the last few months on sex workers. If he relapses on porn, I can get over it, but how do I protect myself from acting out behaviors I can't handle?
Well, this is a confusing question to me, because it feels like you're looking for permission to do something that you already feel like you need to do. You said, I don't know how to protect myself from this because I can't handle it. You also said, I have to accept something that's unacceptable. No, you don't. You don't have to accept any of this. You can make decisions that this isn't working for me, or I can't be here another minute. Or if this was my story, and boy, Tammy, we're a couple tonight. If this was my story, I would expect that Tammy would throw me out. I would expect that she would say, go to treatment somewhere, or I don't want you back in my house. I mean, I also think that what was I going to say? He didn't have a chance to delete everything this time. Well, what does that say? And the second phone? I mean, so this isn't someone who's on the way to trying to build an honest, open relationship with you. This is someone who's continuing to try to act out and get away with it. So I think that this is Tammy used the word boundaries. What are my boundaries, and what am I willing to stick to? Again, if you can't take this and one of you needs to leave, that's what you need to do. But if you can't take this and you say things that you're not going to do, then you're teaching this person that they can get away with anything. So the answer is, how do you protect yourself from something you can't handle? You get out of the way.
Yeah, I never have to accept something that's unacceptable. I have choices. What my choices are, they may be limited, but
right.
But I have choices, and whether it's, I don't hear financial transparency. I don't hear anything in here that is safety or that he's working on things. I just hear that he's working on being extra sneaky. And you're going like, well, if it was just porn, like that would be, that's still not okay, because that probably is, one aspect. He's clearly doing multiple things, and it all feeds into the same, dopamine, and one thing escalates to the next. So you are clear that it has escalated. It will continue to escalate. What do you need to do? What are true boundaries for your safety, financial, physical, emotional? You do not have to accept unacceptable behavior. That's brutal for you. So what do you need to do to take care of you?
And I want to add to the financial piece. If you're living together and you're sharing a life together, he didn't spend $1,000 on prostitutes. You spent 500. So how do you feel about the money that's going out of your pocket to maintain his relationships with other women? And by the way, could $1,000 go into a kid's college fund? Could it be tied to a church? Could it be, used to buy groceries for someone who, or give you a gift? What does that $1,000 mean? Now, you maybe have lots of money and think, oh, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It always matters. He's taking, money is energy, money is focus, money is time, and all that's been taken away from you. So this is not a good thing. We got one more, Tammy. Let's do it.
Yes. Yes, a woman that shares my office told me about a very sexual text her ex-husband sent her. It triggered me. When I got home, I texted my sponsor about it and then disclosed it to my wife before going to bed. She wants me to tell her these things. She wanted the details. She pulled what I told her apart. I got frustrated because I thought I was giving her what she asked for and I was getting punished. She interpreted my frustration as hiding information. What's the right way to disclose things like this? I think you've asked this before, and to me, it's like, what is she looking for with that? Like that you called your sponsor, like to, if I was the partner, I would want to know that you got triggered, you called your sponsor, you're doing what you need to do. This, and especially right before bed, she told him, it's like, oh my God, did anybody sleep that night? So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Dr. Rob?
Well, I completely understand that she pulled what I told her apart. I understand that that you felt punished. I understand that she interpreted your frustration as trying to hold things, but it's your last question that strikes me, which is, what is the right way to disclose things like this? The answer is don't. Don't. We have a responsibility, and I know all the partners like, what? We have a bottom line, which is what our sobriety is, whether it's seeing sex workers or porn or affairs or whatever it is. I have a commitment to you, my partner, that if I do any of these things that truly endanger our relationship and you need to know about them, I will tell you. I'm not going to let you think I have a year sober when I only have 20 days. I'm going to tell you the truth. However, and this is a big however, my day-to-day frustrations, which is, oh, I felt like acting out today, or I drove through the wrong neighborhood, or, I read that email and I shouldn't have. That's what a sponsor is for. That's what a therapist is for. I know that your partner wants it. Partners want to hear everything. But if you feed your partner every single time you have a little bit of confusion or you feel attracted to someone else, they will never feel safe. Partners feel and believe that if they know every single detail, whether it's questions or what you've done, that they're going to feel better. The truth is they don't feel better. It just makes them more upset. And that doesn't mean we have to hide things from them. It's just we have places to go with our attractions and triggers. And I'll say this a million times. I do not want my spouse to be my parole officer. I do not want my spouse to be my police officer. That is not a marriage. What I want is I want to gain trust with them by over time. And what Tammy just said, I struggled a little bit today and I went right to my sponsor and it was really, made me feel a lot better. And by the way, what did you struggle with? Your thoughts, okay? Or is she supposed to go into your inner world and understand what you're thinking? So I think that it's unfair. I understand completely your spouse wants to know it and I validate their desire to, but you will never find peace as a couple unless there are better boundaries around what you share, how you share it. And as Tammy said, when you share it. Spouses, you don't get to know every single thing about us. It's not going to be helpful to you or to me. You need to know that I'm being honest, that I'm on the right track, that I'm doing the things I need to be doing, and that I will tell you if I get into real trouble. That's my side of the table. So
I have one more resource. Yeah, on the sex and relationship healing.com, Gavin Sharp did a boundaries for addicts. It was really good. And he talked about how everybody needs healthy boundaries. Everybody does. And so what do you need as an addict, for your healthy boundaries? I agree with Dr. Rob, like this relationship, I don't know how you can ever heal, because if every thought that you have, that's a,
you're ripping the scab off over and over and over again. It's never going to heal.
Yeah. No win don't for hide either things. Of you. Right. Don't hide. Yeah. No lying, no hiding, but just, I'm taking care of it. I'm doing what I need to do to take care of myself. And, I've called my sponsor, all good. So that do the check-in, the daily check-in, the Thanos or whatever. And then it's enough said, but you're checking in.
By the way, you get to set a boundary. Sorry, Tammy. You get to say, when they say, well, I need to know everything that happened today. I will absolutely tell you if anything meaningful happens. And I know you don't trust me and you don't believe me, but how are we ever going to restore trust if you don't begin? You see what I'm doing. I'm going to meetings. I'm talking to my sponsor. I'm working on all this stuff. That's the guarantee I can give you. If you constantly question me, I'm going to start backing away. You have to begin to trust that I'm going to tell you the truth. And we've had stories here where the person said they continue to lie. They lied to you. Well, that's a very different situation. But here, I think that you get to say, look, I will absolutely tell you anything that is meaningful, that my sponsor says, that my therapist says, that I know will affect you negatively, but my thoughts and my feelings and, looking at someone or something like that, that I have other places I need to take that, because we need things to calm down a little bit. So Tammy, we did 19 questions in 50 minutes. I think that's pretty darn good.
Excellent. Most excellent.
Thank you all
for joining us tonight. So the video will be posted on sex and relationship healing tomorrow. So thanks everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.